Luis is a German social media star, soccer player, and fitness enthusiast.
I talked to my coach from my university now. If we play every game for the season and we have every practice and we make it all the way to the national finals, the maximum amount of days we could have per year is 180. In Europe, it's at least 280. And then they're wondering why they're a step ahead in Europe.
Cristiano Ronaldo, what about his routine inspires you with what you do?
To me, the craziest thing about Ronaldo is his sleeping schedule. He never sleeps longer than an hour and a half. Robert Lewandowski, he eats his dessert first and then he eats the other meals. So he eats his meal backwards. If somebody scores 10 penalties in a row, that's not luck. That's because he did 100 or 1,000 in practice. It's not luck anymore. It's in their system, and then they believe it because they know they can do it. I had times where I was like, gosh, I don't want to post anything today. I don't want to go to the gym. We all have these days, but then the social media part comes in and they're like, there's an expectation, not just to myself, but also to the people who follow me. Show them that even in that days where it's like, you're not really having the motivation or you don't feel good, that you still get up there and you're doing what you're supposed to do. Those days separate you from your competitors.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Optimize Outcomes. I'm Paul Fulford, and over the last few episodes, we've dove into medical aesthetics and a lot of other things as it relates to the technical aspects of therapies and different modalities of treatments with the people we've spoken with. Today, we're going to be doing sort of a cross blend between fitness, sports, specifically soccer, and social media with Luis Ortner. Luis is a German social media star, soccer player, and fitness enthusiast who draws inspiration from legends like Cristiano Ronaldo. Today, we'll dive into the physical demands of soccer, mental toughness, and social media for somebody that's just getting started out, that's somebody that's a current athlete, or somebody that's in between. You'll get something to take away from today, I guarantee you. So let's just get started. So Luis, as somebody who's played both in the US and in Europe, what have you learned about the physical and mental endurance it takes to be that athlete on a regular basis?
Well, I was playing in Germany since I was 8 years old. So I played the majority of my career so far in Europe. I can definitely say that there's a lot of differences, but the similarities are that you have to be mentally tough. I mean, it's not just the coach who expects from you high performance in every practice and every game. It's also the people around you, your teammates, and the higher you go, the more difficult it's going to be. I mean, that's the same everywhere. The difference kind of is that I would say the focus in Europe is more, you have to be very technical. It's a technical aspect. The players are chosen more by like their technical abilities, passing, shooting, all these kinds of skills. And in America, it's more a physical and mental aspect, especially when you go higher in college soccer, like Division 1, Division 2. The coaches really choose by how strong is a player and how mentally prepared he is for the games. Like they actually look into the games and they're like, okay, this is the 80th minute. Is this player still making the full run backwards? And if they see that, then they're like, okay, this player is mentally there the entire time of the game. I would prefer this player over a player that might have a better technical capability, which is not the case in Europe. But
so in your opinion, is that because they inherently play the game and approach the game differently?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Like the first thing I noticed when I came here to the US and play college soccer is that the whole game model is built differently. It's a lot more long balls, a lot more headers. That's why the coaches also choose taller players the higher you go in the college leagues. They even announce before the games, they're like, oh, our defender 6'4" from the UK. Like, it's actually very important here how tall you are, how strong you are. Some coaches even ask, what is this player bench pressing? Think about that. Never happened in Europe. I've never heard about it before I came here. And then I hear stuff like, yeah, our coach, he was asking the players, how much do you bench press before they got transferred to our school?
I remember in conversations with you in the past, when you were even talking about your sister, right?
Yeah.
When you were growing up in Germany playing soccer, was that not stressed? Like, weight training. And again, like when you're here now, like you said, the whole bench press piece, you had said we were talking about your sister being how strong she is in her legs, right? But is that something that's now incorporated in Europe now, or is it something that you do and it's just not really, the measurements aren't all that important?
Okay, so it is, and it has always been a part in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been a part to go into the gym as a team, and especially when you go higher in the leagues. Like when I played youth Bundesliga, we had a fixed schedule. Even when we were in off season, like we had to do stuff. And even my sister now, like they go to the weight room too. That's normal, but I would definitely say that they put more weight on that now. Like they put more effort into the steps that you do outside of the field. I mean, when I came to America, the first thing we hit was the gym. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't even go to the field. We went to the gym first. So definitely a bigger aspect here in America is the gym. But I would say in Europe, it's kind of like catching up. Mm-hmm. And even though they put the main aspect on the technical abilities, they saw, okay, like the game is getting faster. They need more sprint training, for example. So they go in the gym and make fast twitch. Like it's not just about technical abilities anymore. They need players that are all-rounders and that they're capable of being the fastest, the strongest, and the best.
So traditionally speaking, right, looking at these two different, approaches to the game, basically, mm-hmm. Where do you feel like, now having taken part in both sides, how do you feel like that enhanced your game?
Well, for me, it was great because I came from the model in Germany. Mm-hmm. I came over here and I was already a little bit buffer, I would say, because I have some friends that also came from Germany playing in the US and they were a little leaner. So I already had that advantage. Mm-hmm. That's why when we first hit the gym, the coaches were like, okay, like we don't need to do extra work with him because mm-hmm. he's already kind of there. But coming to the US and seeing, for example, all the conditioning practice we did was helping me a lot because, well, my second school was in Arizona in Yuma, mm-hmm. and we played in like 120 degrees, which is extraordinary. Yeah. Like we had a player coming in from Iceland and he did the first practice. After 10 minutes, he was like passed out on the floor. Like I've never seen anything like this. He was just laying there and they had to bring him to the AT room because he couldn't keep up with the heat. So he had to slowly progress into conditional practice in those terrible weather conditions. And every school that I played for here in the US so far did a lot of conditioning, especially in preseason, mm-hmm. which makes sense because if you think about it, you have 3 months of season here in the US. And in those 3 months, you have sometimes 2 to 3 games per week. And that's a lot. I mean, you have to be conditional wise up there mm-hmm. to even run that amount per game. And then you have practices in between. It's all stuffed in 3 months. And in Europe, you have the whole year season, which is a little bit easier and more stretched, which makes it easier for the players to recover.
So the conditioning, you mentioned long ball, right?
Yeah.
Is that because there's a lot more up and down the field with that U.S. style of play versus the more tactical, strategic, technical approach in Europe?
Definitely. I mean, the world famous tiki-taka from Barcelona, that's kind of how the majority of coaches more or less want to play in Europe. They like short passes, they like 1-2s, going around the players, going through them. In America, it's more like play over and then run after. That's why they really go for strong, fast guys, mm-hmm. because they know that they could adapt better to that playing style. If you're a center back and you're not 6'2" or 6'3", you probably, have a little disadvantage to some strikers that are coming there being super buff, 6'3", and winning every header over you. And that's different. In Europe, as a center back, you don't have to be tall because you play out from the back, always short, and even when the ball comes along once or twice, you have people around you. It's mm-hmm. very rare that you go for a header, just like in America, it's almost every ball. So
it seems like when you look at the two different styles of play, it's like the U.S. is like style of play is almost like in the NFL where they work on timing and throwing to a spot, right? So
Yeah.
they're like kicking it ahead in advance, right?
Yeah.
And then when you look at the European style of play, it's almost like running a triangle offense in basketball,
Yeah.
right? Where there people are in spots, they need to be there, X number of passes before somebody takes a shot on goal.
Yeah.
It seems kind of more like comparing those two styles to different sports. It seems like it's similar to that.
Definitely. I mean, it's not call for no reason kick and rush. That's what we call it. And I mean, that's how it looks like. And I might over exaggerate a little bit. There's always teams that try to adapt that European playing style. And especially now, I notice that the college teams and universities, they get in more and more coaches from Europe. I've seen a lot of coaches from the UK recently. And the coaches that are still playing that kick and rush style, they're usually a little bit older.
Yeah.
So they might get changed now for the European UK playing style, which will be interesting to see over the next couple of years. I mean, with the World Cup coming up, I think that the hype around soccer will be, exponentially, that this will be a big thing here in the US. I mean, now it's all about American football, basketball, and baseball, and I think that soccer can really compete after the World Cup. And this will be interesting to see how colleges adapt because, for example, all the 3 colleges that I have been to so far, soccer is always on the lower side of everything, especially when it comes to finances. So the school really invests in their basketball teams, for example, and there's very short money left for the soccer. And that's why they can't really bring the players in that they want to, because a lot of players, especially in Europe, I mean, I was the same way. I didn't have any money to pay college tuition in America, and my parents didn't have any money to pay that. So I depended on a full scholarship. And to pay that from university, that's a lot of money. I mean, that's like 40, 50,000 per year. So if the financial support from the university is not there, the majority of coaches can't play the playing style they want to. But I think with the World Cup now, there might be a different approach and maybe a bigger hype around soccer here in the US.
And that's, I think you look at that, right? Globally, soccer is enormous.
It's the biggest sport in the world.
Yeah. And it, when you look at the US, the monies in the colleges and the universities go to basketball, football, pretty much those two for the most part, depending on which university it is, right? There's other schools that have teams that they're known for, even baseball, but really it's primarily basketball and football, because those are revenue generators for the university, right? And with soccer's international popularity, and again, here, I live in Orlando, we have the soccer club in Orlando now, right? Like there's more of an emergence of soccer, as we call it right here, right? In the US, right? So I do think that, there's probably going to be more investment with that, I would say, and then with the U.S. women's soccer team being as kind of out there as they've been, especially when they were fighting for, better pay for them, as athletes, I think the awareness of the game is up amongst the United States now, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's a great first step. I mean, You said it right. It's all about the money, right? I mean, they actually did a little petition. Like they were trying to push the soccer season that goes all around the year, like have a fall season and a spring season. And I mean, basically almost all the players in Division 1 soccer were like, we want to do that. We want to play all year because, I mean, just from the amount of playing that you have in those 3 months, it would just be so much better to stretch that over the whole year. But it got denied by the NCAA because they were like, no, in spring we have other sports like baseball and there's no funding for the soccer part in spring because there's other sports that are more relevant.
It almost seems that structure puts the US at a disadvantage as it relates to people being able to play that do it everywhere else all year round.
You have a big point right there. And I agree with that. That's the first thing I told my coaches here. I was like, no wonder why the level of college soccer is not the same as in the youth clubs in Europe is because they are training every day. They're training every day, every week, every month of the year. They might have 2 weeks, maybe 3 max off in summer. That's it. Then maybe two weeks in the winter. That's it. And here you have 3 months where you practice all the time, you have games all the time, and then the whole spring off, the whole summer off, winter off. And then you have a couple practice sessions in spring, okay. But even there is actually rules and regulations for how much the coaches can train with the players, ruled by the NCAA, meaning that when we come back in spring, we can only have 8 hours of on-field practice with the coaches during season. Like, there's specific rules for each league of how much you can train. Think about that. And in Europe, it's just like, oh yeah, boys, our last season game was yesterday, but we're still training because there's no rules and the players have a season all year round. And think about that. I just had a talk to my coach from my university now, and I think he told me that if we play every game for the season and we have every practice session and nothing gets canceled and we make it all the way to the national finals, the maximum amount of days we could have per year is 180 days of soccer. In Europe, it's at least 280. That's 100 days per year that we're missing out on practice and games. Think about that. Over the course of 4 years of high school and then 4 years of college, that's 8 years, that's 800 days less of soccer. And then they're wondering why they're a step ahead in Europe. It's just
2.5 years difference
Exactly.
of doing the skills that make you better, right? Because
Exactly.
that's with anything, right? The more you do it, the better you can get, and especially when you have passion around it, like which you clearly do, right?
Yeah.
Soccer does require a lot of stamina, speed, and strength. You mentioned some of the things that you do. Can you give like specific drills that can work on those things that you've done throughout your career?
Well, we did a lot at Hertha BSC, which was my first big club, I'd say, in Germany that I played for. And we actually had sprint practice. So they went with us in the gym. We went on the treadmill and they just let us run. And then they recorded us and they showed us how we're running. And this was the first time, to me, that I saw how I'm actually sprinting. And it looked not perfect. And then they told me what I can improve to make my running style better, to be faster.
So what you noticed, and what was something specific they gave you to help, make that even more efficient?
Well, for me, personally, it was that I didn't bring up my heels high enough while I was sprinting, and I didn't put my knees high enough up in the front acceleration. So what they did was, for example, they put a stretch band in between my legs, and then they were like, okay, you have to accelerate the fastest you can and the highest you can. Bring up your knee as high as possible. Therefore, with the resistance, you had to full powerly bring your knee up. And then when you were sprinting, it felt like running on a cloud, because you did it with resistance, and then without, you automatically brought your knee up higher. And that's how I fixed my sprinting style, and I got so much faster just by doing that.
So you would do those drills and then run, and do those drills and then run, and you would notice that you were able to just generate so much more power, and it probably helped with your starting and stopping ability too, I would think. Yeah.
And they gave us a weekly plan once or twice. We got in with the ATs, with the personal trainers, and then they were like, okay, you should do this, you should do that. And then we did it, and we got faster week by week. So it's really good.
So Cristiano Ronaldo is obviously pretty well known for his fitness, right? There's a lot of females that would definitely agree with that, right? What about his routine and his diet and basic overall process inspires you with what you do?
Well, to me, the craziest thing about Ronaldo is his sleeping schedule. Did you hear about that?
I've heard about it. It's like LeBron too. He's very regimented about making sure he gets his sleep.
Yeah. Ronaldo has that thing that he never sleeps longer than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And he spreads that across the day to have 7.5 hours of sleep. And he got that from a sleeping coach. And he told him that if you sleep longer than an hour and a half at the same time, you are shutting down your brain cells, your nervous system. And he was like, okay, let me try that. Let me only sleep an hour and a half and then break that down over the entire course of the day. And he's saying that helped him a lot. And we're seeing his performance.
Yeah.
He is 39 now, and he scored more goals since he's 30 or turned 30 than before. No other player can say that about him. So he's definitely doing something right.
It's so interesting because you look at the way LeBron approaches it, it's different, right? He wants to make sure he's getting his 8 hours.
Okay.
Now, he might not get it all at the same time, right? But it's interesting, looking at the neuroscience around it because, sleep, there's so much involved with sleep for recovery and repair. And it's interesting that, he's able to do that with those 1.5-hour segments, right?
Yeah.
What have you understood about the neuroscience side of it, right? Is there like what you've understood as far as, shutting down the brain? How is that impacting him? Is it helping his mental clarity, or what is it about that particular part of it?
Yeah, well, so he said that it helps him stay focused at all times. And that's not just in the game, it's also during practice, during the gym. Like, it just helps him be always aware and always focused. Well, from my understanding, it's exceptionally after like an hour of sleep, you fall into that deep phase of sleep. And he just wants to be in that deep phase for 30 minutes, not too long, because then the whole system shuts down and it takes time to get back up. So from my understanding, he just tries to enter that deep state of sleep right where it hits, and then he gets back out of it. And that somehow helps him a lot to focus and for the entire course of the day, which is insane. But I mean, every player kind of has those special, things that they help for them. And there's, for example, one player, Erling Haaland. Did you hear about him? He had a problem with his sleep. So what he did, and it helped him just by doing that, a Band-Aid over his mouth. So he has to forcefully breathe through his nose during his sleep. And he said that he got so much better because of that, because he gets better sleep, better rest, recovery. He gets more oxygen during the sleep. It's just more healthy to sleep while breathing through the nose. And well, he had people who told him what to do, because sometimes it's hard to figure out on your own. Like Robert Lewandowski is a striker, one of the best in the world. He eats his dessert first, and then he eats the other meals. So he eats his meal backwards. When he has a 3-course meal, and you usually start with an appetizer, then you have the main dish, and then the dessert, he eats it the other way around every time he eats. And so like each player has something where they're like, okay, this helps me perform better, and then they're doing it.
Yeah. So staying with Ronaldo, he's obviously iconic as it relates to soccer or football, right?
Yes.
The original, I guess people might argue football, right? Is
not
in this country, but not in the US.
I had to get used to it too. Now I'm saying soccer, and people in my comments are like, "How could you name it soccer? You're from Europe. Shame on you." And I'm like, guys, I just had to get used to it.
Adapting,
yeah, give me some credit.
Around his fitness, right? We talked about sleep. What do you think is interesting about that, and what inspires you with your fitness?
Well, I just think that even though he plays at the highest level, and that's not just with Ronaldo, that's with a lot of top athletes, they still maintain the little things, the basics. And I think that's where a lot of it comes out of, like just going to the gym every day. And if it's just for 30 minutes and you just do stretching and mobility, that's what it really comes down to. That's what, gets you at a higher level than your competitors.
So what you're saying is, it sounds like it's just having that mental fortitude and that discipline, right? It's like 100%. Nothing's going to interrupt me from doing these things during these times of the day, no matter what.
Discipline is everything. And I mean, the mentality in the sport of soccer is probably one of the biggest influences in there. I mean, think about it. There's a player in Europe, he played in the Bundesliga, and he transferred to a big club, and he scored 0 goals. 0 goals. And then he got a mental coach, and the next season he scored 15 goals. And that's just one example. Have you ever seen Ronaldo before he shoots a free kick? He talks to himself. It's that whole thing of manifestation. He's talking to himself. He's like, you did it every single time. Just do it like you always do it. You know you're the best. You know you're going to score. There's videos of him saying that in front of the camera because they film him while he's taking the free kick.
They don't take the camera off of him.
No, never. Never. Yeah. And he's just manifesting it, and then he scores. I mean, Conor McGregor said in the interview, like, if you see it up here and you have the courage to speak it, it will happen. And I mean, I agree with that 100%. If you really manifest it, it will happen. If you think you can do it, you can do it.
So in medical aesthetics, one of the things that we coach on is talking about like a patient seeing it, like in a consultation, right? Because if they don't need to see it in front of them, if they can picture it in their eyes, right? And they can picture it in their mind's eye, right? Where it's like somebody can do something if they can see themselves doing it, right? Even when you're in conversation with people, they'll tell you, I can't see myself doing that, right?
Yep.
But if they can see themselves doing it, then they can. Visualization has become a huge part of athletics, right? I know Stanford even has incorporated like VR with their football team, right? In your life and in people that you've had as coaches, how much do you spend on the visualization part of the game?
Not enough.
Not enough.
We should do it more. Yeah, that's one thing we also talk in the team a lot, because a lot of players on my team actually believe in manifestation. It recently, came up to me, and I believe in it too now. And it's just like, if you take 15 to 20 minutes before you go to sleep, before the game day, and you just picture different scenarios. Okay, what happens if I get the ball on the left flank? What if I, get the ball in the background? Just think about the different aspects to the game, and then picture yourself what you're going to do with the ball, how you're going to score, manifest it. That's going to help so much. Just picture it in your head, just like you say. I think that's a huge game changer for players and athletes, especially at the college level, because nobody does it. It would give you such an advantage.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, it's definitely one of those things. Like when you're a kid, I think anybody that's played any sport when they're a kid, they put themselves in that game-winning scenario, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it's the World Series, the Super Bowl, the NBA Finals, the World Cup, right?
Final.
It's like you've definitely done it, right? And it's one of those things that I feel like, on a previous episode with Sean Foley, we talked about this, and it's like we get these calluses or this rigidness built up that we lose from adolescence, right? Like it's almost like your ability to believe gets beat down by the world if you let it, right? If you're not focusing on these types of things. And it's that innocence and that belief in yourself. That's what makes these great players great, right?
Yeah.
We talked about the discipline. It's that, you can get very far with talent, but if you want to be elite, you look at Michael Jordan in his book, he talks about, I made a lot of shots because I missed a lot of shots because he was practicing, right? And any great person that's done something that's, elite has that. It's this obsession almost, right?
Yes.
And maybe that's not the best word, but I don't know another word to describe it, right? It's healthy in a way. And, in conversations you and I have had, you make sacrifices, right? Like you have friends that want to go out and party, and you're like, no, I need to recover, or I've got, I need to do this, I need to do that.
You need to be on the training field.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, that's where people draw that belief from, is the amount of practice they're putting in. Think about it. If somebody scores 10 penalties in a row, that's not luck. That's because he did 100 or 1,000 in practice. And then at the end of the day, the luck, it just comes because of practice. It's not luck anymore. It's just, it's in their system. And then they believe it because they know they can do it.
It's innate, right? It when you do it, just like when you were talking about with your running, right?
Yeah.
You did the drills so that it became natural, right?
Exactly.
And it's just like when we set goals. Like some people that set goals, that becomes the new norm, and you got to set a new goal, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're focused on continual improvement, right? Because the one thing that's constant in this universe is change, right? And I feel like anybody that gets to a point where they say they've mastered something is when somebody else is going to be surpassing them at some point, right?
Yeah.
So again, with Ronaldo, we talked about his sleep, right? Also, he's incorporated lots of different modalities and methodologies like cryotherapy, red light therapy for recovery. But what are some basic things that like you've incorporated and that anybody that's an amateur athlete or a fitness enthusiast can incorporate into their recovery routine?
Well, I would say the biggest thing to start as early as possible is stretching. I did that completely wrong. Nobody told me that, and I'm really upset about that because it's such a huge thing for injury prevention, for, performing at the highest level, is start young with stretching your hamstrings, your quads, because it's gonna fall back on you. I'm telling you. Like, I was maybe 15 or 16, and I went to the doctors because I had a pulled hamstring, and they were like, let me see how stretchable you are. And then I tried that typical exercise where you try to reach your toes, and I could barely go past my knees. And they were like, is that all you can do? And I was like, yeah, I've never been able to go further down. And they were like, well, that's exactly the problem you have. And I was like, why? Nobody told me that. Now I'm 16 years old, and this is the first time this is brought up to me. It's crazy. But it's such a huge thing, and there should be a bigger focus on that. You do have like a little stretch routine after every practice, but that's definitely not enough for the amount of practice you have. And I think that this is the biggest first step that everyone has to do, is before practice, after practice, have your own stretching routine, know what's best for your body, stretch every part of your leg before you start practicing. Otherwise, you, on the long run, you're going to get injured. And injury is the biggest factor why people don't make it to the pros. I played with so many talented players that never made it anywhere just because injuries after injuries after injuries. And the majority of these players were also not very flexible. They didn't stretch a lot. They didn't put a lot of time in recovery. And what ends up is they're having knee injuries and they have to stop playing.
We talked about the difference between U.S. and European international, soccer, being the onus on weight training and the difference in how they hold those things dear. Somebody's ability to be limber and move is definitely something that helps with injury prevention, right? That's 100%. That pliability that somebody has. That's something that, Tom Brady talks a lot about, right? Is that it's somebody's ability to be able to move fluidly, right? And from stretching, I think that's a great first thing. It seems so basic, but
it does, huh?
But it's, again, as I've gotten older, right? Like you had to help me today because I am injured right now.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things is that I've had to learn that even some of the regular things that I would do that are just fairly taxing, it's better if I stretch beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Because your body doesn't, as you age, like being involved in biohacking and recovery and all these things, like I'm trying to do what I can to use science and everything to my advantage.
Yeah.
But still, even, the only person that's undefeated is Father Time, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that stretching is something that I've gotten better at as I've gotten older. There was a period of time where I got injured because when I was younger, I was always playing sports and stretching was a part of it. And then when I stopped playing sports, but I still wanted to do things active, I would just go out there like I used to be able to.
Yeah.
And then that's when you hurt something.
Yes.
No,
I agree. It's just, you have to work with your body and not against it. I think that's the biggest thing. So many people don't even know what's good for their own body. And imagine you having high amount of energy for the game, but you don't even know how to control it. And then it's like you getting injured, and then you have to do the whole process of getting back onto the field. And you could have just prevent all of that by knowing your body, doing what you're supposed to do, stretching. What I did when I was younger was a lot of running out after practice, because we were ending at such a high performance, the practice, and we just went to the locker room, and that's it. Your body needs time to cool down. So what I did was just running a couple laps, just slow and easy. But that helps also with injury prevention. It's all, you have to figure out what's good for your body. Not everybody's the same, but definitely listen to it and put the effort in, because for the long run, if you don't do it, it's going to hurt you.
So as a busy college athlete and somebody that travels, for different reasons, you've still managed to put together a phenomenal and large social media following, both on, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, right? How do you use those platforms to help inspire people you know, in the things that you talk about and even with fitness?
Yeah. Well, how I approach social media, I want to do it very personally. So I always try to just show them my daily basics, what I'm doing the entire day. I do a lot of day in a life, especially for my German channels, and the people love it. They just want to see how a college athlete lives, and not just what he puts onto the field, but also what he does near the field, what he does offside. And I just show my entire daily routine, from waking up to going to the gym to doing the stuff that you need to be a college athlete. And I think people really appreciate that honesty and that, inside, because a lot of people don't show that. And that's what is like so helpful, because when I watch a day in a life, I don't want to see, oh, he played so good, he made like a perfect score and scored a goal or something. I want to see, okay, what work does he put into it off the field, how the facilities may be, that's more important. So I definitely try to show as much background as possible. And I also try to implement the struggles that are there, we talked about a lot, it. I had that terrible knee injury. Had my surgery a year ago, and I showed my followers everything about it. I showed them how it looked like, how my road for the recovery was happening, and showed them the drills that I had to do, everything with the ATs and with all the recovery I had. It was just a long way, but I think that showing all of these struggles necessarily like shows them that there's not always the bright side. It's also a lot of dark times that you have to go through to be back up there and be back on the field and perform at the highest level.
That's, we're talking about social, right? And we've had conversations about comments and things, right?
Yeah.
So with social, there can be this pressure on presenting a certain image, right? And how do you maintain almost, again, there's expectations, right? But how do you balance, having a certain brand, so to speak, and with authenticity? One of the things about your social is that you are, like you just said, very open, right? And transparent.
Yep.
Like, how have you been able to maintain that? And do you feel like that's a part of your brand?
Definitely. Social media is all about, trying to show the people what your life is really about. And that's what a lot of influencers are doing wrong. They're just showing the nice parts, but they're not showing, their entire life.
Right. Nobody has a perfectly set up photo where the Louis Vuitton bag and the champagne glass in real life, that nobody who's capturing that photo all the time.
Yes, exactly. No, your life is an up. Your life is an up and down. It's not just up there. And I think that's what the people also want to see. And it makes my job easier, because if I would just always have to show them the perfect setting, my perfect lifestyle, then I'm essentially running out of content, because so perfect is my life not. So I'm also showing the downsides, and that makes that whole thing easier for me, because I can show them every day what's going on without having to hold back. Oh, today was a really good day, I can show something and post, and then tomorrow might be a dark day, like an injury, and then I'm not posting anymore. Come on, you gotta show both sides.
So do you feel like, because again, like I think you and I have talked about this, where I'm on the road a lot, and when I'm home, I want to be with my family. I don't do as much extracurricularly as I could, because I want to spend time with my family. And I use sometimes video messages. I send them to my daughter, when I'm going through something and trying to work it through. Do you feel like, now that you have gained a following, right, that it's helped you inspire yourself, because you want to be authentic, because you're posting the good and the bad, right? To like almost push through things a little bit more.
Yes, definitely. I had times where I was like, gosh, I don't want to post anything today. I don't want to go to the gym. We all have these days where we wake up and we're like, today I feel like doing nothing. But then the social media part comes in, and they're like, there's an expectation, not just to myself, but also to the people who follow me. And therefore, no, you have to, get yourself together, get up, go to the gym, post about it, show them that even in that days where it's like, you're not really having the motivation or you don't feel good, that you still get up there and you're doing what you're supposed to do, because those days are, at the end of the day, those days separate you from your competitors. I mean, that's what makes the good be great.
Yep.
And in those days, I always call myself the winner of the day, because I'm winning over the people that I'm competing with, because they might have stayed in bed, and even though I felt bad, I got up and did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So.
I had a coach when I was playing football in high school, and I got brought up when I was younger, and I didn't realize you didn't ask this man questions, right? So like we had to run laps around the field at the end of the day, and it was after a full day of practice and sprints, and we ran like 3 laps, and he's like, "Are y'all boys tired?" And we were like, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, you're tired, you're out of shape, run 4 more." So we ran 4 more. He's like, "Are y'all boys tired?" We were like, "No," because we said the other, right? And then he's like, "Oh, you're not tired, you can run 5 more." Oh my God. So we ran 5 more. "Y'all boys tired?" Nobody said anything this time. He goes, "Oh, cat's got your tongue, run 6 more." We come back and he's like, "Are y'all boys tired?" We're like, "Coach, we're whatever you want us to be, man." You know. And he's like, "Everyone take a knee." He goes, "How many of you have problems sleeping at night? You're student athletes, right? You know, your mind's racing, you know, you're at school all day, then you're at practice till the sun goes down." Pretty much everyone raised their hands. And he goes, "Work out, watch game film." And again, me being new to that level, I raised my hand and I was like, "Why?" He's like, "I'm going to tell you why, Fulford." He's like, "Do you think at 2:30 in the morning, that guy that's standing across from you on Friday night is working out and watching game film? So you mean to tell me you're going to let him be better than you? You're going to let that happen?" And I was like, "No." You know, and at 15 years old, that was something that stuck with me, right? You know, as I've gone away from sports as like a regular thing for me, I still have, you know, ties into sports in a lot of ways, but I don't play them like competitively like I did once. And I took that into my career, right? Before I was ever acquired any kind of skills, I wasn't going to let my competition outwork me, right? There are some people that maybe have a better affinity or natural skill set towards something. But, you know, again, taking it away from soccer and another sport like Jerry Rice, right? If you looked at Jerry Rice's off-season routine, he wasn't always the fastest 40-time guy, but nobody outworked him. Yeah. And even at the elite level that he was, nobody outworked him, right? And I think that's something that, you know, there's always that generational thing where the generation before the next generation doesn't feel like they had to go through the same things, right? So with the younger generation, right? A lot of your followers are that younger generation. How do you feel like social media has made, you know, fitness and the things that you're going through more accessible?
Well, it definitely has good and bad aspects. I would say the bad ones are that there's always that person that does everything better, the person that make it seem as you're not doing enough and they're all the way up there and you will never reach them. I mean, that's the downside of social media, that you always look at other people and you're like, "Oh, I want to have this. I want to be this fit. I want to look like that. Why does he have the body, but I don't?" But everyone is different. So that's a wrong thing to look at others. Look at yourself and try to improve yourself. And that's where social media can help a lot. I mean, we know how powerful the internet is. You can just go on YouTube and look up every workout that you ever want to do. 20 years ago, that was not possible. You had to know somebody who knows somebody and maybe can help you personally. But other than that, it was really difficult. And now you have access to the smartest people on earth, often for free, just on YouTube or on Instagram. And they show you what you can do and they really try to help you. And I mean, I think that's a big step forward. You just have to make sure that you watch the right content, and you have to keep in mind that you have to listen to your own body, see what's good for you, what's not good for you, because there's always output that's terrible for you and your body. You just have to decipher what you want to implement into your own routine and what of social media is like, okay, maybe that's for somebody else, but not for me.
So social media is definitely something for you that is not a laborious or taxing type of task, right? It's something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So what is it about social media that you enjoy so much, right? Like you've gained this some level of expertise. I mean, anybody that has 3.5 million followers on TikTok is doing something right, correct? You know, so what is it that, you know, you enjoy so much about the social media aspect?
Well, I started social media just off of a bet with my sister. It was super funny because it was quarantine, it was COVID, and we were both sitting in Germany and we didn't have school. And she was constantly scrolling on TikTok. And I was just getting tired of it. I was just like, why are you watching this entire time? And she was like showing me all these videos. And I was like, I can do the same, you know? And she was like, no, you could never. So that's how the bet started. And then after like maybe 2 weeks or something, I had like 10,000 followers. And she was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to say anything. And that's how I started. But then after that bet, I was like, wait, there's people out there who actually enjoy watching my videos. There's actually people out there who I don't even know personally, but they can somehow connect to my life and connect to what I'm posting on social media. And that's why I continued. And then I posted a couple more, you know, months and then lead into years. And then all of a sudden I had a lot of following, but I realized that what I was putting out there wasn't my life. It was more like trends and what was popular at the time. And so I made the decision, was like, this is nice and all. I built a good amount of following, but I want to show them how my life is actually, you know, looking like. And I implemented the whole part of soccer because, I mean, that's a huge part of my life. Exactly. Yeah. Fitness, what I do, I show my family and stuff. And I think that's when I really started to enjoy it the most, because that at that point I was like, okay, now the people actually watch my content because of me and because of what I am showing them. I mean, I'm showing them what I'm doing every day. I'm not doing anything exceptionally different. I'm just living my life how I would it without social media. But by posting it and showing the people and giving like, you know, them something to see and getting from them the feedback, the positive feedback, it's just like so encouraging to be like, okay, like this is great. I can connect to people that I don't even know in real life and get to know them. Maybe even like now I started a community for my German following and I get to know all of them, and it's just amazing to me.
So do you feel like that also was kind of that, you know, point where your subscribers and followers increased when you took it to that level of just opening up?
Yes.
Yeah.
I expected when I was kind of moving away from the trends to stop getting all that increase of following, just because usually trends work better. But I was so surprised. Like I gained so many more followers, and more I got DMs. Before that I just got followers, but they were just there. Mm-hmm. But then I started to post my life and answer to the comments, answer to the DMs, and all of a sudden it felt more like a thriving community than just me being out there and people looking at whatever I'm posting. It felt more like, okay, this is actually an engaging community, and that's what makes it so much more fun now.
And you use that word, you've used that with me plenty in conversation, mm-hmm. Community, right? Like yeah. What social media and what digital communication has allowed for is for things to be global and to connect, right? And it just seems like what you found is that you're really creating a connection as best you can without, you know, being in person, right? You're trying to create and connect with people, which I think is great, you know? So what's next as far as social media goes for you, right? Like, I mean, I know you have aspirations of, you know, being on screen in a different light, right? So what's next as it relates on the digital front for Luis?
Well, as you mentioned before, the best things are achieved through passion. And I mean, my passion was always playing football. I started when I was 8 years old. I also played some other sports, but my biggest passion was soccer, so I stick with it. And I play to this day, and I absolutely love the sport. I have so much passion for it. So I realized that the biggest success is where your passions are. And my other passion besides social media and football is acting, which is so surprising to me because I just love watching movies. And all of a sudden, I got a little opportunity where I met somebody who is in Hollywood who could send me some auditions, and I just tried it out. And I just felt so much joy and passion for it, even though I'm not good at it yet. But it doesn't matter because, as we talked about earlier, I mean, the harder you work, the better results you get. And ultimately, if you work as hard as possible, you can outwork somebody who has more talent than you. Perfect example, Cristiano Ronaldo. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that once I'm done with college, I'm gonna turn that passion into something bigger. And especially with my following that I already have on social media, I will incorporate that into my tries to become an actor and then see, what's possible in that aspect. But I just think that when I approach things with passion, there's just always a way to find success. So.
Yeah, my brother and I joke with people all the time that like 67% of our humor wouldn't exist without movie lines.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I love people who just quote movie lines.
people, we movie jump too, right? Like we speak our own language as it relates to movie lines, right? And I know as a movie nerd that this is a loaded question, right? Because like if somebody asked me, I would have to break it down by genre almost. Like, what are your favorite movies, right?
Yeah.
But what are some of the movies that you love the most, and why do you love them?
I somehow have a thing for sci-fi movies. I just think that everything that is still with real actors and still with a very realistic environment, but has some kind of special things to it that, like for example, an apocalypse, like all those things that are realistically happening in the future that could happen, all those things are really interesting to me because that just expands the normal daily basis that we're all living in and the lifestyle that is, a normal lifestyle at the moment. I just think that expanding this world into something bigger is so interesting to me that I could definitely see myself in movies like that. I mean, just on my plane ride from Virginia coming here, I watched I Am Legend with Will Smith, and I mean, that movie is just incredible.
Yeah.
And
I mean, again, someone's ability to act,
yeah,
right? How many other people is he interacting with or engaging with in that movie?
Yes, like two at the end, but basically nobody.
Right.
He's just talking to some like the mannequins that have the clothes on in the store. That's all he talks to, in his dog.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, to have that ability to carry a whole movie just by yourself on your shoulders, that's something so incredible. Like the movie Marziana, where he's just like there and he just does everything by himself. You have to be such a good actor. And I think that throwing yourself into a situation like that and master it and come out with a movie like that, I think that is, to me, the highest thing of self-development that you can have. Like if I could achieve that, I think that would be my life goal right there. That's insane.
Who's an actor that you feel like really connects with their character and that you enjoy, that inspires you?
Well, my favorite actor is Robert Downey Jr. Okay. I just love this guy so much. And I mean, his story is so iconic, you know, coming out of prison and then getting that role. And, it's just like, that shows that in this world, everything is possible if you have the right mindset, if you work hard for it. I mean, he was at rock bottom of life and now he's all the way at the top of everything, and he still puts in that work, like for every single movie that he does, he is putting in the shift and he's delivering every single time, and it's just insane to me.
I love Robert Downey Jr. And if you look, I'm much older than you, but I was around for his first wave, right? And he grew up around the business, right? But he is such an inspiration, right? Because I even value his intellect, right? I like the way he looks at things, right? And he's somebody that, again, gives back and is involved as well, right? He wants to see, you get the impression that he really wants to see the best out of humanity, right? His ability to, Iron Man is him, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean,
he embodies Tony Stark.
oh man,
It's insane.
So you have people that are really into the comics and they have this vision of who that person is in their head. It's like anytime a book goes to movie,
Oh my
right?
God, they have such a responsibility to
Right.
nail that role.
It's so hard, right? And he's again, Robert Downey Jr. Maybe he's not the first person that somebody pictured in the role, but it's hard to not see him as Iron Man.
Nobody else could do it.
No way, right? There's no way.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to the fitness side of things, and where you and I really did connect was with AccuFit, right? The muscle device. You mentioned previously, and obviously your social media following knows that you had an injury, right?
Yes.
A pretty serious one that like set you back, right?
Yep. My rib meniscus in my left knee.
Yeah.
No fun.
No. And one of the things that, I mean, we treated your core, but we also treated that leg, right?
Yes.
And prior to that, right, and without getting too far into what AccuFit actually is, what was your experience with different kinds of electric stim or muscle stim that you utilized in that injury process?
Yeah, well, it's familiar to me. I mean, I used electricity before as therapy, but it was more like okay, let's stimulate the muscle and get more blood into it. That's really all it was. So after intense workouts, getting my muscle back, we did some electrotherapy to just get, the muscle a little bit more flooded with blood. And that was basically all it was. The rest was just through exercise and building up that muscle. And I mean, it took such a long time to building that muscle back up. I think it took me over 8 months to get back into full practice, which is such a long time, especially after the doctor told me, it might be 4 to 5 months. And as a college athlete, you only have 4 seasons. This is so important.
Especially like you were talking about with that condensed season in the US, right?
Yeah.
And I wish I would have connected with you sooner.
Yes,
right?
that would have been great. That would have helped me. That would have cut those 8 months down.
Yes, tremendously. But again, when we first looked at treating your leg, right, before you even told me which leg it was, I said something to you, right?
Yes.
I was like, is this the leg you injured? Because I could tell, right?
So this muscle is a little smaller.
In just the way that it was engaging, right?
Yeah.
And again, you were still doing the individual leg strength, and you were doing, the combined legs strength and movement exercises and drills, right? And feeling as though you were where you needed to be, right? You were obviously able to still play, and it was fine. But explain again, and we do have video that we'll be able to show, and I know you'll be able to show that too. When you first felt it for the first time, right? Like, how was it so much more different than the electric stim that was used for recovery versus something that was actually engaging and basically working your muscle out?
Yeah. Well, with the electrotherapy I had so far, my muscle was basically just twitching up and down. And that's what I was used to. That's what we already used 10 years ago when I was playing for Hertha BSC. Nothing else. That's all we did. And that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years. And when you set me onto the AccuFit, and it first, I first felt how it engages with the muscle and how it moves my muscle, I was like, whoa. Like, this is something I never felt before.
Your reaction was amazing.
Yeah, I was just like, whoa, wait a minute. I need to process this, because all of a sudden I'm just laying on my back and my thigh is just moving from one side to another or in circles with the different settings. And I was just like, oh, okay. I didn't know that's a thing. I didn't know that's possible. I mean, we never had access to that at any of our facilities before. So it was just like something completely new to me. And I could immediately tell that this is something that I wish I would have had earlier. I mean,
and you've since, you were still playing when we started, right?
Yes.
And then you've since been doing working out and everything else. And I mean, how do you feel different, or how do you feel as though it's helped take you to a level from where you were to another level? Can you explain that?
Well, we purposefully only did my left leg, as you said, just because there was a little unevenness between my both legs since the injury. And I wanted to get that left leg back up to be even with the right leg, and so we only worked on the left leg, and I truly believe it's the same now, might be even stronger. I mean, I don't feel any difference anymore. I just feel that my thigh and my hamstring are up there. They engage better. When I ran and when I did the sprints, I didn't feel any sort of pain in my knee and my meniscus anymore, which sometimes I still felt a little something.
I remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
Yes, because I mean, with all that practice, all of a sudden, and as we talked about, the 3-month season is just an insane amount of pressure on your body, and especially after such a surgery. I did feel it sometimes at practice, but after maybe the second treatment, I was like, okay, wait, like the pain is going away. I can practice, I can play, and I don't feel pain anymore, and that's just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and again, it's something that I think, moving forward, as long as you can continue to play, that I'm sure you want to play as long as you possibly can, right?
Of course.
We talked about where you'd like to see yourself at some point, but
Yeah.
I mean, this is still your first love, right?
Yes,
As far
exactly.
as, a lot of it, and again, a lot of those things that have made you are things you've learned in the game, right?
100%. I mean, soccer went through like a red line through my entire life. That's the main sport for me, and that's everything I learned and everything I am now is a part of soccer, just because I got my mentality from that. I got my discipline from it. I know that whenever I have bad times, Monday is going to be practice again, and I'm going to be back at practice, and I'm going to have my routine, and I'm going to have fun at the game. And when you have moments where you don't feel very happy, or you don't even feel like you're doing the right thing in life, you're going back to your sport, and you're like, okay, like this is where I belong. That's why I mean, hopefully one day I'm going to be a parent too, just like you. And that's what I would tell all parents, even though I'm not a parent yet. Put your kids in sports. I mean, put them into something they're passionate about, because that would help them, or will help them in the moments where they need that something to fall back onto, which is in that case the sport, or it was for me always soccer.
So what do you think soccer, what are some of the disciplines or life lessons that you think transcend just the sport, right? What are some of the, like, one or two of the biggest things that you feel like soccer has impacted you that's going to be something you carry forward for the rest of your life?
Well, definitely to be hardworking, because just with soccer, it's the more you work, as we said, the more you will get as a result. And that's with everything in life. I mean, you can never approach something and expect that your talent can carry it all. You have to put in the work to get the outcome you want. Something else that I learned through soccer is just the mentality aspect of telling yourself you can do it, and have to go through it even if there's hard times, and sometimes you feel like you don't want to do it or you can't do it, but you have to push through it. There's no other way around it. You have to push through it, just like in practice when the coach says you have to run another lap. You're not going to be like, oh no, I'm going to take myself out now, because then you're letting yourself down and your teammates and everyone who believes in you. And that's the same in life. I mean, you always have to work your hardest and stay disciplined. I think that already gets you a long way in life.
So with young people and your followers and, people that look up to you, and obviously there's lots of people that look up to Ronaldo, who we spoke about a lot today. What advice would you give them in their journey, especially like these people that are in a similar situation to you, trying to be, the type of social person that you are with social media, right? I think that you kind of embody this thing where anything you would, if somebody wanted help, like if they were looking for a mentor, you're the type of person that would do that. So what would you tell somebody that's looking to grow the way that you have? What's some basic things that you would explain to them?
Pursue your passion, stay on your passion, and definitely never forget that consistency is everything. And it's not just sports, it's social media as well. I mean, we all know that posting one video a month is not going to get you anywhere. You have to stay consistent. Then it all comes down to discipline. I mean, hardworking, stay disciplined. And if you have the consistency and you have passion for it, there's almost every single time that there's going to be a good outcome. I have one friend who was a pretty good player, but nothing big, nothing special in Berlin. And he was already 18, 19 years old, and they all wrote him off. They were like, okay, he's never going to get anywhere. And then he took one summer where everyone else took off in COVID, and he trained every day. And his name is Derry Sherhunt. I can share that. And now he plays for Hertha BSC first team, and he scores goals, and he's a professional soccer player, and he made it. Out of all the players that I played with, the players made it who were the hardworking, the animals on the field that didn't take off the field. They were doing more than everyone else. Lassos Samardzic, he plays for Atalanta Bergamo now. This guy, he had so much personal trainers. He did more than everyone else off the field. He was having a nice diet. He was working out. He did everything he was supposed to, and that's where he ended up in the freaking Champions League. I mean, the dream of every soccer player. So yeah, it's all about discipline at the end.
So we talked about social media here, obviously. Where can people, there's going to be people that are listening into this that are maybe not following you now, right? So what are the handles on your platforms where people can find you?
Well, about the AccuFit, you can definitely see the video on Luis Ortner on Instagram. It's just my English channel. You guys can check that out. If we might have some German visitors, definitely check out Luis Schnell. That's my German channels. That's across all platforms. And also for the English channels, I just have YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. So you can find me there everywhere. And it's just Luis Ortner, all Luis Ortner, and then _. That's where you can find me. And you can see my lifestyle and everything I'm about.
And it's fully transparent and authentic. And again,
yes.
I mean, I think that we need more of that in this world, right? Yeah. Before we go, one of the partners of the podcast is Alastin Skincare.
Okay.
So I have a specific little care pack. Everyone that comes on the podcast gets this skincare. I've been on the Alastin train since 2017. They've got a phenomenal group of people that work on the product development as well as that work for the company. So I have a little gift for you.
What?
Right here. Right. So then
okay.
There's some very specific things here that we can go through here, right? So
thank you.
We'll go through these so that you can understand what this is. Like there's one in there that we're going to talk about that's great for bruising, right?
Okay.
Even, right? So
yeah. Can I just take them out?
Yeah, take them out.
They're mine?
Yes, they're yours.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, take them out. So, and then we'll go through these individually before we leave.
Well, thank you very much. I definitely need this after my long flight. My skin is very dry right now, and this is going to be great.
So, Luis, one of the things about this product is all of the products have what's called Trihex technology. And what Trihex technology does is it removes old collagen and elastin to help jumpstart the skin's natural rejuvenation process. So you just mentioned being on a plane, right? That this is something that's going to be helpful, right? Yeah. It rebuilds healthy collagen and elastin to support visible changes at the surface level. And then it also replenishes new healthy collagen and elastin and clear the damaged fragments to maintain healthy skin inside out. So again, like I said, I've been on the train since 2017. It's a great product. That the product that's closest to you, this one right here, that is the Reform and Repair, and it also has the Trihex in it.
Yep.
And basically what it does, it's something in the medical aesthetics and surgical world that we use post-procedure, post-surgical, and it supports the body's natural detoxification and repair process, helps reduce the appearance of swelling, and speeds up time of recovery from bruising. Oh, okay. So again, you get feet coming at you. You have body parts flying at you.
Yeah.
So that's something that you can help reduce, the redness and help recover quicker with that. The next one, that is the Restorative Skin Complex with Trihex that you're going to use on your face specifically, right? Yeah. And it's an all-in-one daily serum that helps restore lost volume and address tone and texture, right? So, nice. If you talked about sometimes, you and I have had conversations about maybe a little bit of unevenness, some redness, some brownness. Yeah. This is something that not only is going to help, replenish your skin and make it have like healthy revitalized look, it's going to also help reduce the appearance of those, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Skin Shield All Mineral Sunscreen. Again, it has the trihex in it.
Yep.
It contains hydroxy, methoxy, phenyldecanone, which is highly effective hyaluronic acid booster, and it's an antioxidant and it's an anti-irritant, right? A little bit of this goes a long way,
Okay.
right? We talked about movies earlier. My wife, the first time I ever used this, I put a lot on my face and I was like blue white, right?
Okay.
She called me Powder from the movie, Sean Patrick Flannery's character Powder,
Okay.
because so a little bit of this goes a long way. It also has ectoin, which helps provide protection from blue light and can repair existing sun damage. And it's all mineral, and it's 19.95% zinc oxide, which is very helpful as far as harmful rays with the sun.
I definitely need that for the California sun. Our practices.
Yeah. And yes, all the time. I mean, again, in general, like it's one of those things that people don't realize, even when they're spending a lot of time in the car, right? That one side of their face will get more sun than the other side of the face, right? So should always do that. And then underneath that is the A-Luminate. So it's a non-hydroquinone retinol brightening product addressing dyschromia, melasma, and PIH, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, performed effectively. Now, again, in a study, this performed effectively as 4% hydroquinone, which is basically kind of a more aggressive bleaching agent, so to speak, right? At 12 weeks with less adverse effects, and it's safe for long-term use, which hydroquinone is something you go on and you go off of typically.
Yeah.
Lastly, we have the C radical here, which is a novel form of vitamin C, sodium ascorbate, to help move through the cellular membrane, which combats against free radicals and conserves elastin. It's a proprietary delivery system that ensures stability and penetration. And how this is different from other vitamin Cs is they don't use ascorbic acid, which usually degrades the elastin, which is in other vitamin Cs. So again, there's a lot of thought behind these products. And specifically for what you do on a regular basis, there was, this was curated for you.
I love it.
Yeah, so I hope you enjoy the product.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, the sunscreen is going to be a game changer for me for sure. Thank you. This is great.
I just want to thank you, Luis, for coming on today. I mean, for our audience, he's clearly an inspiration in a lot of ways, right? He's got a social media following that he's curated this community, something we spoke about a lot today, that is, his brand is authentic, right? And he's somebody that shows that discipline, hard work, dedication is something that really is going to take you far in soccer, but also life. And again, he's somebody that epitomizes what Optimized Outcomes is as far as a community goes, and in its own right. And I can't thank him enough for being on here. I look forward to following his journey and obviously continuing to work with Luis in the future. So much. Yes, thank you very much.
I really appreciate for being here, for inviting me, and this was a great talk. Thank you.
Until next time, I'm Paul Fulford, and this is Optimize Outcomes. Please make sure to like and subscribe where you follow your podcasts.